Michelle here with the Marine Science Center. I'm standing on the jetty at Ponce Inlet in Florida, and it's the year 2020. Did you guys know that the Earth is covered with about 70% of water? Most of it's salty, but there is a little bit of fresh, but it's all connected. Now, did you ever stop and think about, do we need water? And not just in the obvious, like our everyday lives. In the household, we've used water for cooking and cleaning and laundry. But also, we use water for commerce and business. Transportation on the oceans. Behind me is the Atlantic Ocean, so we have big ships that travel the oceans, bringing us products. We also need water in the manufacturing of these products. We use our oceans and our river systems for fisheries to bring us food. Then there's the fun stuff like fishing, boating, swimming, kayaking. Did you guys think about one of the most important things? That's right, clean water for drinking, for hydration. Here in Florida, it's a very, very big business, tourism. It brings in about $7.6 billion annually. Hotels, restaurants, shops, and eco-tours benefit from this precious resource that we have, water. Okay, looking out onto this body of water, this is the inlet. And the inlet is a passageway that takes the ocean water down to the west, down into the river systems, and it's a very, very important place. Would you like to go take a look with me? We're here in the estuary. The estuary is a brackish water system. That means that it's a mixture of fresh and salt water. Life begins here. It's called the cradle of the ocean. So it's a safe place for juvenile fish to grow up. Another important role in this ecosystem is the plants. The plants play a really, really important role. So this is called a living shoreline. Plants in an area like this, when we actually have this living shoreline, it's not only beautiful, it also stops erosion, it helps clean our water, creates habitat for all of these wonderful animals, and so this is a very, very healthy ecosystem. Now we know all these wonderful facts about water. Do you guys want to learn other ways you can help protect our precious resource?
Hi, I'm Trey Hanna with Volusia County Environmental Management. I also run the Explore Volusia programs. We're out here today at beautiful Longleaf Pine Preserve, which is one of Volusia County's conservation lands, and it's about 12,000 acres. As we take this journey of water through Volusia County, we wanted to emphasize wetlands. And a simple definition of wetlands are basically lands that are saturated. You can get bogged down with a lot of different definitions, but that's a pretty simple one to stick with. We're here today in a cypress swamp. All these trees behind me are cypress. And we want to talk to you about the importance of wetlands. Wetlands are important for their biodiversity. As we can see here, we've got crawfish, different types of fish, a fishing spider, and even a water scorpion in our bucket. With the many different species that rely on wetlands for their survival, there are actually 43% of all threatened and endangered species rely directly or indirectly on wetlands for their survival. And if you remove corals, sea turtles, marine mammals, and beach mice, nearly all species that are listed as threatened, endangered, or concerned depend upon or are known to use wetland environments for their survival. So our wetlands are important for carbon sequestration. They're really able to hold carbon in these areas. They really help with our climate change that we have going on right now. So they can hold carbon for thousands of years, so we want to protect our wetlands for that reason. They're also good flood protection. So not only do they hold carbon, they're able to hold a lot of water. So if we have a hurricane that comes through, these wetlands can hold that water to keep other areas from flooding. And then finally, they're also important for water quality. All this area out here is perfect for filtering the water. You can kind of say it also helps recharge the aquifer, but wetlands are not as much recharge as they are for filtration and water holding. They don't percolate through as fast as, say, a scrub habitat. So our wetlands not as much for recharge, but really that water filtering and holding water for flood protection. Protecting these wetlands is important not only for the environment, but for the economic value. Wetlands are great for hunting, fishing, recreation activities, research, and learning, and also just coming out and having some fun.
Hey guys, welcome to the beach. It's the beach, right? Doesn't it look like the beach? Well, you know what? Millions of years ago, this was the beach. I know that you all just learned all about the beach and the coastal ecosystems and the estuaries from Shell over at the Marine Science Center, but here we are at the beach too. I'm Sandy, I'm the manager at Lyonia Environmental Center, and we're here in Lyonia Preserve, which is ancient beach. Many years ago, when the sea levels were higher, these areas of scrub habitat were islands. All of this sugar sand that you see here, all of these beautiful sand hills, this was the sand dunes. This was the ancient beach. And so fast forward years and years later, this is an area that's inland, it's high, it's dry, and it's a great habitat and a great area for development. Lots of people have developed here. That's not necessarily a bad thing because this was a perfect area to develop in because of that high, dry sugar sand. The problem with that is, over time, when we lose so much of the scrub habitat and so much of this area, you lose the ability to recharge the aquifer. It is responsible for filtering and cleaning our drinking water. When it rains, the rain comes down into this really fine sugar sand, and that sugar sand cleans the water. It filters through, it percolates all the way down into our aquifer. The aquifer is really important because it's not only the place that we get our drinking water from, but the aquifer is also what feeds our springs. And you're going to learn a little bit about springs from Megan in just a few minutes. But without scrub habitat that's here to clean and filter that water, we wouldn't have clean water in our ecosystems, we wouldn't have it in our springs, and we wouldn't have it to drink as well. So this ancient beach, these ancient sand dunes that were once beachfront property, are now crucial to the health and the welfare of the water that we all depend on a daily basis.
Springs are where Florida's groundwater comes up to the surface and flows into rivers and estuaries. I'm here at Gemini Springs in DeBary, where twin springs allow about 6.5 million gallons of fresh water to bubble up through their interconnected network of limestone channels each day. Our remarkable springs create important habitats for wildlife and plants, and many provide refuge for manatees in the winter, with their constant 72-degree temperatures. When the water is cold everywhere else, the manatees know they can rely on places like Blue Spring, also in Volusia County. But springs are a precious resource for people as well. Remember when Shell was talking about how important the coast and estuaries are for our economy and our fun here in Volusia County? Well, the same goes for the springs. And remember when Trey and Sandy talked about how our drinking water is cleaned by Volusia County's ecosystems, filtering our water on its way down to the aquifer? We love our springs. They're a rare window into the aquifer below us. Remember, all of our water resources are connected, no matter where in Volusia County we may be. The rain that falls on your landscape is just as much a part of this cycle. That's where you come in. Did you know that what you put on the ground can end up in our water, even in our springs? That includes any fertilizer that you might be applying to your lawn. Think about this. In Florida, summer rains don't water fertilizer in. They wash it off of our lawns and into streets and ditches and storm drains, which lead to surface and groundwater resources. When excess nutrients from fertilizer end up in the water, it feeds algae blooms. Now, algae occurs in nature, but when nutrients cause it to grow rapidly or bloom, the large quantity of algae acts like a blanket, blocking sunlight from plants on the bottom and requiring oxygen to survive. The blanket of algae causes a low oxygen environment in the water, which can lead to fish kills and dead zones in our waterways. One way you can help protect our water and protect our fun is by skipping the fertilizer, especially during the rainy season from June through September. If you must fertilize, think twice as nice. Once in the spring and once in the fall, with 50% or more slow-release nitrogen, will carry you through that rainy period without posing that extra risk to our water bodies. For more information on Volusia County's fertilizer ordinance, you can visit volusia.org/BeFloridianNow. It's easy to be Floridian now. Our springs, lakes, rivers, lagoon, and ocean will thank you.
Hi there! We are coming to you from the second floor veranda of the historic DeBerry Hall Mansion, which sits about a half a mile off the St. Johns River. The river played a vital role in the development of Florida. Ships would travel the St. Johns River carrying early settlers and goods to inland parts of Volusia County. The journey was not for the faint of heart, though. Guests were advised to beware of snakes dropping from the trees as the steamers got close to the riverbanks. And apparently another hazard was the worry of alligators being tangled up in the steamer's paddle wheel. Once guests departed Jacksonville, Florida, it was about an 18-hour journey to Enterprise, Florida, which is right about 3 miles down the road. The small city of Enterprise became an important destination for travelers seeking a healthier climate and the adventure of the Florida wilderness. Popular travel books of the 1800s, like The Rambler, claimed doctors recommended bathing in the sulfur springs of Florida for relief of rheumatism and joint problems. In 1851, a steamboat captain by the name of Jacob Brock started purchasing land in Enterprise. He was very well respected for his navigation skills on the very tricky St. John's with its constant changing tides. Captain Brock started laying out streets, built a wharf and a 100-room hotel, which would eventually attract some of the nation's most famous visitors. One such visitor was a wealthy champagne merchant by the name of Frederick DeBerry, who fell in love with this area and decided to start buying up land along the St. Johns River.
That's right. Frederick DeBerry, who is the namesake of the beautiful town of DeBerry, built this winter hunting lodge in 1871. At one time, DeBerry owned the land that stretched from the mansion all the way to the St. Johns River. On a clear day, one could stand on this upstairs veranda, see past the orange groves, and off to see the visitors coming up the Shell Drive, which is now Mansion Boulevard. From leisure to industry, water played a far-reaching role in Mr. DeBerry's annual winter visit to Florida and the development of Volusia County. DeBerry was an outdoorsman who spent his winters hunting and fishing on expeditions to the St. Johns River, sailing across Lake Monroe to Sanford, and also taking carriage rides to New Smyrna Beach. A businessman, he even tried his hand at orange growing and commercial steamboating. Running an enterprise as large as DeBerry Hall required many supplies. He utilized boats along the St. Johns River to transport ice packed and sawdust, sides of meat, and jade green grapes, and much more from Jacksonville to DeBerry. Mr. DeBerry's groves became part of the booming citrus industry in the area, and DeBerry used several of his steamboats to transport his citrus north. Over time, Frederick DeBerry's line of steamboats increased to 13, and in 1880 he even won the contract to transport the United States mail. The DeBerry merchant line was key to the development of economy and tourism in the area.
Yes, every year saw an increase in sightseers traveling to Florida from all parts of the United States. They came to Florida to explore the wonders of this beautiful tropical climate, and many came for health reasons. Land was purchased, businesses were established, villages grew into town, and new cities sprang up everywhere. The long Florida boom in tourism and growth had begun, thanks in a very large part to the beautiful St. Johns River.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Happy Earth Day!
Hello everyone, my name is Danielle and I'm with Volusia County Environmental Management. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about water conservation. Water covers 71% of Earth's surface, however 97% of this is salt water. The remaining 3% is found locked away in glaciers, the atmosphere, underground in the aquifer, and in rivers and lakes. The vast majority of fresh water on Earth is inaccessible for human use. Where does our water in Volusia County come from? The Volusia Floridan Aquifer is unlike any aquifer in Florida. Designation by the EPA as the sole source aquifer means that it functions as an underground water source, supplying at least 50% of the drinking water consumed in the above area. Where does the water from the spring come from? The Floridan aquifer is replenished by a natural process called recharge. Recharge occurs when water seeps from the land's surface down through the layers of earth and ends up in the limestone and dolomite layer. The limestone acts as a sponge, absorbing and holding water. It is hard and full of voids and crevices that allows water to move through them. These areas have no alternative drinking water sources that could supply everyone that lives and depends on the aquifer for drinking water. This is an important part of what we have to do to protect our most precious natural resource here in Florida, our water. How you use water in your home does affect the springs and the aquifer system. Consider your residential water use. Irrigation accounts for about 50% of most residential water use. Some ways to conserve water is to consider what type of landscape you have. Different plants have different irrigation, shade, and soil needs. Consider planting water-wise plants in your landscape to use less irrigation and conserve water. It is our responsibility to protect our water, our most precious natural resource. As we spend more time at home, let's consider some ways to conserve it and be sure we have enough available in the future. Other ways to conserve water in your home include installing a low-flow shower head, a faucet aerator, and checking for leaky faucets both indoors and outdoors. Remember, saving water and saving energy also means you're saving money.